Hey there, this is Edward Douglas from Cinema Daily US. I'm here to review the new Russo brothers movie, The Electric State. It's a Netflix sci-fi flick which stars Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt, and many other famous faces and voices. Anthony and Joe Russo became famous by directing a number of Marvel blockbusters. Before that, they were mainly known for comedy, and not so much their 2002 comedy Welcome to Collinwood, but more for their work on shows like Community and Arrested Development. When they directed Captain America: The Winter Soldier, it immediately transformed them into bona fide action directors, and they never looked back. The Electric State is the Russo brothers' second movie for Netflix, and it reunites them with the Captain America and Avengers writers Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely, who adapted a graphic novel from Simon Stellenhag. It's a sci-fi tale about a war between humans and robots, but this one doesn't take place in the future. This one takes place in the early 90s, which in itself could have been a problem, but the setup for the premise is quite fun, as you watch how the abuse of commercial robots led to them revolting and starting this war. Stanley Tucci plays Ethan Skate, the man who figures out how to end the war using neural transmitters that allow humans to inhabit robots. That's the basic setup for a very different take on the humans versus robots story we've seen in everything from the Terminator movies to Isaac Asimov's I, Robot, and as recently as Garth Edwards' The Creator, a movie I absolutely loved. After this setup, we meet Millie Bobby Brown's Michelle, an orphaned teen who lost her parents and brother Christopher in a car crash. When a robot shows up claiming to be her brother, she goes on a journey trying to find out what really happened to him. Along the way, she meets Chris Pratt's Keats, a smuggler selling stolen goods, who agrees to help Michelle reach her destination. Giancarlo Esposito plays a veteran of the robot wars who has become a robot hunter himself. He doesn't like the fact that these humans are traveling around with robot friends, breaking the treaty signed by Skate. After this war, most of the robots were imprisoned in a remote area of New Mexico, and of course, that's where Michelle needs to go to find her brother. I'm going to try hard not to get too far into the plot, because it's kind of convoluted, and it gets messier and messier as the movie goes along. A lot of these robots look pretty silly, but they all have familiar voices, including Alan Tudyk voicing Michelle's robot, and Anthony Mackie voicing Keats' robot companion Herman, probably one of the funnier characters in the movie. It's kind of great that the Russos had the pull and the money to bring in such an impressive voice cast. Even Coleman Domingo, a recent Oscar nominee, makes a glorified cameo at one point. The movie often gets mired in its attempts to be cute and funny with these robots. There are some things that start out funny, like the fact that the robot's leader is essentially Mr. Peanut, voiced by Woody Harrelson. But as other bots are introduced, that gets less and less amusing, and actually a little embarrassing for the actors clearly doing it for the paycheck. There are other characters like Kehuy Quan from the recent Love Hurts as a doctor scientist who puts Christopher into a robot body, but he doesn't add very much to the story. Tucci, on the other hand, goes overboard on playing the bad guy in this piece, but it's kind of to be expected for a movie that's trying to be larger than it actually is. There are aspects of the movie that seem more geared toward younger audiences, almost something more appropriate for a Disney movie. But I guess Disney got badly burnt with the creator, so there's no way they were going to make another robot movie so soon. It's also a little strange that the movie is set in the 90s, a time when even AOL was just starting up, and there's a running theme about how humans have become reliant on technology. In this case, it's the neural transmitters that allow them to go anywhere and do anything in robot bodies. It's clearly meant as an analogy to how humans are so obsessed with their own phones and social media nowadays, but this is such an alternate reality that the message might go over many heads. Otherwise, there are moments that work, especially some of the more emotional ones, but there are just as many bits that are just corny as heck. That is ultimately what kept me from fully enjoying what is otherwise a fairly entertaining movie from the Russos. That said, it's also more than slightly vexing that the filmmakers behind Avengers Endgame, the movie with the highest box office opening of all time, would be drifting so hard towards streaming. I personally got to see The Electric State at a screening room, but it's getting the bare minimum as far as a theatrical release, so most people will just be watching it on Netflix. The Electric State has so much potential, especially as commentary on how technology and the internet has taken over everyone's minds since the 90s. I really wanted to enjoy it more, but it often gets so corny and convoluted that I couldn't fully get behind it, and that's why I'm giving The Electric State a C+.